How many of you feel like you haven't succeeded in life in the way that you always wanted to? We constantly hear stories about people who worked really hard, and against all the odds, these people became very successful and rich. These stories can be uplifting, but there is a darker side to them and no one's talking about it. Over time, they can make you feel like a failure. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about why it's okay to not be successful. First of all, you set the bar too high. Let's say you're in your 20s and you're really ambitious. You work very hard at what you do, but nothing really clicks. You hear these success stories though of ordinary people who achieved big things. They inspire you, so you hold on to hope. But then your 20s goes by, and then your 30s, and still nothing's really clicked. Before you know it, you're in your 40s wondering what went wrong. You start thinking of yourself as a failure. You didn't become a successful CEO, a famous actor, or a best-selling author. But here's the thing, what we never talk about is how these are really high standards. Often they are impossibly high standards. If you think about it, it's kind of toxic how the world keeps telling us that if we want to be successful, then we need to be mega rich with millions of subscribers and somehow constantly stay in great shape. Not all of us can tick all of these boxes, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that you're a failure, it just means that you set the bar way too high. With that in mind, we tend to forget that there are other ways of being successful, such as having lasting friendships, having a good relationship with your kids, or even just enjoying your life. Second, it's not just about hard work. We want to believe that becoming successful is mostly about working really hard, because that's something that we can control. But sometimes becoming successful is about factors beyond our control. An example is having the right people in your life. You've probably heard about how Jeff Bezos started Amazon in his garage. He quit his successful corporate job to found Amazon, and he worked really hard to make Amazon work. But just putting it out there, he was also very fortunate that his parents were willing to fund him $250,000, which is a huge advantage for anyone wanting to launch a startup. And unfortunately, not every founder has the same advantage. There's also timing. You might think that you've come up with the right idea and all you need to do is work really hard to make that idea work. But what if the timing isn't right?
I tried to look at what factors actually accounted the most for success and failure across all these companies, and the results really surprised me. The number one thing was timing. Timing accounted for 42% of the difference between success and failure.
Maybe your idea seems like a good one, but if the timing isn't right, that's not something you can control. This brings me to the next one. What about failure stories? We only hear success stories. We never hear stories about people who sacrificed everything and still failed. Those stories do exist, but they are a lot harder to find. First of all, because people often don't want to hear failure stories. They're not exactly inspiring. And second of all, because a lot of people who have failed don't want to publicly admit it. But if you look for these stories, you will find them.
So several years ago, I decided to become a part of a healthcare app startup. That was something that I thought at the time was a really good, innovative idea. I met someone who had started building this technology. Now, in the back of my mind, I had all these fantasies of becoming a tech startup billionaire. You know, I was fantasizing that I was going to drive all these fancy cars, I was going to fly first class around the world, I'd be talking on stages about how I created this really innovative technology and how I was this amazing, innovative founder, all this kind of crap. The truth was that I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I put some money into the app, I decided to invest my time into it, and I essentially quit my other career to spend most of my time working on trying to promote and market and build interest in this new technology. Over 2.5 years, I think I probably wasted maybe $60,000 to $70,000 of my own personal savings trying to keep myself afloat while we were trying to launch this app.
The reason I'm mentioning this is because if we're only exposed to the success stories, then this can easily trick us into thinking, I should also be able to succeed. But the truth is that, sadly, most of us won't get to see our big dreams come true. And it's better to accept that statistically, it was always unlikely, rather than thinking, I should have succeeded and I didn't. In other words, you're not a failure, you're just not in the 1%. Next, the negatives of being successful. When we imagine being successful, a lot of us fantasize about being mega rich, but we tend to forget about the negatives that often come with being successful, such as loneliness, high levels of stress, and having to work all the time. Let's look at Mr. Beast as a famous example. If you didn't already know, Mr. Beast is YouTube's top earning YouTuber, and he has a really interesting success story. He grew up with a single mom, came from a fairly poor background, and despite being really amateur when it came to doing YouTube videos, he persisted. Despite the odds clearly not being in his favor, he eventually became YouTube's top earning content creator. A lot of people, especially Gen Alphas, idolize Mr. Beast and want to be as successful as he is on YouTube. But here's the thing, it might sound like the dream career for many, but it still has its downsides.
Are you happy?
Well, no, the average person does not want to live the life I live or be in my head. They would be miserable because you're just working all the time, and they would probably just ask themselves, why am I working all the time? Why don't I do literally anything else? I'm like a zoo animal. Like I don't have free will.
Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't aspire to be as successful as Mr. Beast, in case that's what your big dream is. I'm just saying that sometimes there's also a dark side to being successful. Yes, you can fantasize about becoming mega rich, but just remember, you may also find yourself working all the time, constantly feeling under pressure, and that you're not even happy.
So 7 days a week, sleeping in the factory.
You ever worry about yourself imploding? Like it's just too much?
Absolutely. No one should put this many hours into work. This is not good. And people should not work this hard. They should not do this. It's very painful.
Painful in what sense?
It hurts my brain and my heart. It hurts. This is not recommended for anyone. I just did it because if I didn't do it, then good chance Tesla would die.
That brings me to the next one. It's okay to enjoy your life. A lot of highly successful people openly talk about how they don't believe in a work-life balance.
Tell me some sentences I could say in an interview with you that would be immediate red flags.
Oh, I've got a good one. So can you talk to me about work-life balance in this organisation? Sorry, babe. I'm leaving. Get out! Here's the thing, work-life balance is your problem.
The message for everyone else, especially for anyone who's ambitious, is that you should feel guilty as soon as you stop working. Yes, if you're mega ambitious, realistically, you're going to have to work pretty hard to get to where you want to be. But that said, no one should feel guilty about wanting to enjoy their life. It's okay to choose other things over work, such as hobbies, parenting, relationships, friendships, and yes, relaxing. Choosing these things doesn't necessarily mean that you're failing. It just means that you're succeeding at other things. Also, just putting it out there, if you're working all the time, technically, burnout isn't great for productivity in a way.
Think working harder is always better? Think again. Welcome to the burnout paradox. You work longer hours to catch up, then lack of sleep makes you less efficient. Then tasks take even longer, so you work even more. And the cycle continues, leading to burnout. So break the cycle, set work boundaries, prioritize sleep, take regular breaks. Remember, productivity isn't about quantity, but quality of work.
If you're feeling burnt out, take a break from your work and do something to enjoy your life. Don't feel guilty because of it. You're just recharging your batteries, which will help boost your productivity in a way. Next, you're not successful yet. You might be in your 30s or 40s, thinking that you should be successful by now. You often ask yourself, what went wrong? But maybe you're just not there yet. When we hear success stories, we often hear about those people who became mega successful in their 20s, sometimes in their teens. This reinforces the idea that becoming successful isn't enough. You have to do it while you're young. Yes, sometimes these success stories are really impressive, but we have to remember that there are a lot of people who didn't succeed in their 20s. We just don't hear those stories. And there are stories of people succeeding in their teens or 20s, but then failing epically. Elizabeth Holmes was convicted of fraud and sentenced to prison. Same with Charlie Jarvis. Josiah Humphrey and Mark McDonald, founders of Appstar, saw their company go from riches to ruin. The idea of Appstar was to build apps for clients, And in the end, the company just wasn't delivering on their promises. Why did these young founders fail? There are different reasons depending on how you look at it. But I think it's fair to say that if these young founders had had more life experience, maturity, and wisdom, they probably would have had a better chance at succeeding. The point I'm making is that it's okay to succeed later in life. And in fact, there are a lot of stories of people becoming successful in their 40s or later. Arianna Huffington founded the Huffington Post at 54 years old. Harland Sanders, known as Colonel Sanders, started franchising KFC in his 60s. That's when people are thinking about retirement. Morgan Freeman was 50 when he finally had his breakthrough role in Street Smart. Interestingly, there is also research showing that the average age for successful founders is 45. And here's something to think about. As you age, you accumulate life experience and wisdom. These are things that can help you to succeed, not just for the sake of becoming rich and famous, but because you want to achieve something meaningful through your work. Finally, success doesn't mean a full life. What do people actually regret when they're at the end of their life? Australian palliative carer Bronnie Ware spent years caring for dying patients and wrote about their big regrets in life. She published these regrets in her book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. So what were they? I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. I wish that I had let myself be happier. What's interesting is that none of these regrets are about not becoming rich enough, not achieving enough status, not being productive enough, or not impressing enough people. So to sum it up, if you're not successful and you never succeed in the way that you had always dreamed, that's okay because you can still live a full and happy life. And if after this video you're still mega ambitious, just remember, you still have time.